When learning English, it's easy to overcomplicate things. Apps, hacks, special tricks, this secret nobody's talking about. Ultimately, it's not that complicated. It comes down to having enough regular input at a comprehensible level, and then having regular language output. In other words, reading and listening in the input category, and speaking and writing in the output category. And of course, doing this regularly, making sure you actually do the work. That's the secret, apart from it's not really a secret. You know it, I know it, everyone else watching this video knows it, but only a tiny proportion of people watching this actually do it. Why? Well, we get distracted. We prefer to watch videos about how to learn rather than actually doing the learning ourselves. And thinking about doing the work is easier than actually doing the work. Now, I'm not here to judge, but I am here to tell you about how to get the input part right, and how to get the right mixture of reading and listening. See, most people don't get this balance right. Everyone knows that person who reads a lot in English. They might even be able to read native level books in English, which is great. But when it comes to speaking or understanding fast native English speech, they get stuck. They don't listen to enough English, so they miss that crucial part of how English actually sounds. And I'm sure you know someone who spends hours every day watching YouTube videos in English. But when it comes to writing an email or having a real conversation with someone in English, they get stuck. They don't have the words to clearly express themselves, and they feel restricted by their own knowledge and ability to use English. Now, maybe you are watching this and nodding along thinking, yeah, that's me. So, what I want to talk to you about today is why a combination of reading and listening at the same time can be so powerful, and why listening to podcasts and combining this with following along with the transcript is such a powerful way for improving your English and kind of blasting through that dreaded intermediate plateau. Now, just as a quick introduction, if you are new to this channel, my name is Alistair and I am the host of a podcast called English Learning for Curious Minds. I've been making podcasts for over 5 years now. They've been downloaded almost 10 million times. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because I get messages pretty much every single day from listeners to our podcast and people who've used our method, telling me how helpful and transformational this method has been for them. How it has helped them get new jobs, how it's helped them get a 9 in the IELTS, how it has allowed them to have conversations with English-speaking friends or family members, and how revolutionary it has been for their English. So it works, and it's not just me saying this. There is also a bunch of academic research that shows that this method really does work and is far more effective than just listening or just reading on its own. Now, I'll come to that a little bit later in the video. First, let me just define exactly what I mean. I'll use the word podcast, but really this can be any kind of English audio. It can be a podcast, it can be the radio, it can be clips of people speaking in English. And the transcript is just the written version of it. Simple, audio plus words. But why is it so powerful? Well, it combines the only 2 sources of input that you need, listening plus reading. First, you listen, which allows you to hear real English speech, intonation patterns, connected speech, pronunciation, as well as potentially pick up some new vocabulary. But you also use the transcript as a form of visual reinforcement. Now, why is this important? Well, I'll give you 5 reasons. The first is that it means you can catch every single word, not just the easy ones. Now, without a transcript, you'll understand the words that you already know, but you might miss new ones, especially if they are spoken quickly or there's some kind of connected speech that they are a part of. A transcript allows you to confirm exactly what was said rather than guessing. It helps you understand why you didn't understand. Was it because the speaker spoke too quickly? Was it because you didn't know that piece of vocabulary? Was it because it was slang? Was it because it was part of a connected speech? The speaker went quickly from one word to the other. With a transcript, you can see why it was that you didn't understand. The second reason is to do with vocabulary building. Now, when you are listening to a podcast, or when you're watching a video on YouTube or a film on Netflix or whatever it might be, it will be full of new vocabulary. But if you're just listening or you're just watching, it's very easy to mishear it, to not hear it properly, or even if you try to pay attention, to forget it completely after you've finished listening or after you've finished watching that film. Seeing it written down helps you connect the pronunciation with the spelling and the meaning, which means you're just much more likely to remember that word and be able to use it yourself. The third reason is to do with pronunciation. Now, listening and reading at the same time is super helpful in terms of allowing you to connect what you hear with what you're reading. So you're connecting the spelling of the word with how it is pronounced. So by listening and following along with the written version at the same time, you'll be able to see things like how one word slips from one to another. You'll see how certain sounds are reduced, how certain words are connected, or some sounds are just dropped completely. Things like the spoken version of going to often being gonna, or of kind of being kinda. And as a kind of extra in the pronunciation category, using podcasts with their transcripts is pretty much the best thing for shadowing. When you listen to someone speaking in English and you try to shadow what they are saying. You try to repeat exactly what they are saying right after them. Clearly, this is a lot easier if you're doing it following along with a transcript. And as anyone who has tried shadowing will know, it is one of the most effective ways of improving your English pronunciation. Using a transcript can also be super helpful for improving your confidence. Now, it can be super disheartening, kind of sad to try to listen to something in fast spoken English and think, I just don't understand. But if you have a transcript in front of you, it's much easier to understand, which can be amazing for increasing your confidence. And final point, using a transcript is much better when it comes to doing exercises and active learning. There's another video that I'll link to below about how you can use ChatGPT with podcasts to improve your English. And a vital part of that is having a transcript. But even putting AI aside for 1 minute, having a transcript, one that you can even print out, means that you can do things like highlight interesting words. You can circle new expressions that you might like to use for yourself. Or you can just use it as a guide to refer back to if you're doing other exercises, like trying to summarize the podcast or writing your own response to the podcast. Having the transcript just makes it much easier for active learning. And in terms of the results, well, it works, and it works really well. There was this big study that was done in 2013 called The Effect of Extensive Listening on Developing L2 Listening Fluency, Some Hard Evidence. And in this big research project, learners were split into 3 different groups. One group was only focused on reading, another was focused on reading and listening, and the third group was focused just on listening. And as you can see here, the post-test results demonstrate that the reading plus listening group produced the most consistent and significant outcome compared with the reading only and listening only groups. In other words, Listening plus reading is far more effective than just reading or just listening. The power truly is in the combination. Now, you're probably thinking, I already do this with Netflix or YouTube as I turn on English subtitles, but I haven't seen any of this magic progress that you're talking about. You're right, but they aren't quite the same. Firstly, on YouTube, subtitles are normally AI generated, so they aren't always 100% accurate. And anyway, subtitles are often simplified, so not every word that the characters speak is included in the subtitles. And what's more, with the subtitles, the word is only on the screen for a second or two. So it's super annoying to think, oh, what was that word? And I have to press pause, I have to go back to catch what was said. Purely from a language learning perspective, it's much better to focus 100% on the audio, to not have any kind of visual distractions. And having the transcript in front of you means you can just look up and catch that word rather than having to pause, rewind, and find a word that might not even have been transcribed properly by the AI or even included in the subtitles. So, give it a go. There are a bunch of English Learning for Curious Minds episodes that have completely free transcripts. They also include tons of vocabulary definitions, and we have translations in 12 different languages. So I'll put a link down below to where you can find those. Give it a go and let me know in the comments how you get on. And just in case you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as the next video is going to be on how you can use podcasts plus transcripts together to be a smarter, more effective learner of English. I'll catch you then.